Hi, I'm Rita. I'm 39 years old, and I live in Dusseldorf. Maybe you're watching from Germany, maybe somewhere else entirely. Let me know in the comments where you are. I used to think of myself as someone capable, resilient even. I built a good life for myself, piece by painstaking piece. I worked hard in events marketing, the kind of job that requires you to be 10 steps ahead all the time, anticipating every potential disaster, managing expectations, smoothing ruffled feathers. I was good at it, really good. I had a knack for seeing the big picture while simultaneously noticing the tiny, crucial details others missed. A misplaced comma on an invitation, a vendor who hadn't confirmed their electrical needs, the specific shade of blue the client preferred for their napkins. I saw it all. I handled it all. I made things happen. But for the longest time, I used those same skills, the anticipation, the smoothing, the managing, not just in my career, but in my personal life too, especially with my family. I was the one everyone turned to. The fixer, the organizer, the quiet backbone. It felt good, in a way, to be needed. It felt like love, sometimes. It felt like belonging. What I didn't see, not for years, was that being needed wasn't the same as being valued. Being the fixer didn't mean my own needs were ever considered. Being the backbone just meant I was expected to carry the weight, silently and without complaint. I was so busy holding everyone else up, I didn't notice I was sinking. This is a story about how I learned the difference. It's about how the people I loved most, the people I thought were my foundation, turned out to be the ones chipping away at my very core. It's a story about betrayal, the slow, insidious kind that creeps into the corners of your life until one day it explodes in your face. But it's also a story about finding your own footing when the ground beneath you crumbles, about reclaiming your power, and about the unexpected freedom that comes from saying enough. It hurt deeply, more than I can easily put into words. It cost me sleep, it cost me tears, it cost me pieces of who I thought I was, but it also gave me something invaluable, myself. And that, I now know, was worth every single painful step. So, pour yourself something comforting, settle in, and let me tell you what happened. Maybe there are parts of my story that will resonate with you. Maybe you've walked a similar path, or maybe you're walking it right now. If so, know you're not alone. This is my story. My world, the one I had meticulously built and navigated with what I believed was quiet competence and unwavering loyalty, began to unravel not with a bang, but with a series of small, almost imperceptible tugs on the threads I thought were strongest. It wasn't a sudden catastrophe, but a slow, creeping erosion of trust, culminating in a betrayal that felt less like a shock and more like the inevitable collapse of something that had been silently crumbling for years. I was 39, living in the heart of Dusseldorf. My apartment overlooked a quiet, leafy street, a small sanctuary I cherished. My job in events marketing was demanding, consuming vast amounts of my energy and time, but I was good at it. I managed budgets, coordinated logistics for complex international conferences, soothed anxious clients, and pulled off flawless events that left everyone impressed. It was a world of precision, control, and measurable success. Outside of work, my life revolved perhaps too much around my family. My mother, Renate, a woman of formidable will and perpetually disappointed air, and my younger brother, Marcus. Marcus was 35, charming in a feckless sort of way, perpetually just on the cusp of making it, whether it was a business venture, a relationship, or simply getting his life together. He was Mom's golden child, her eternal project, the one who required constant support, financial bailouts, and emotional cushioning. I, on the other hand, was the responsible one, the capable one, the one who didn't need help, or so the narrative went. My contributions, whether it was navigating bureaucracy for Mom, lending Marcus money that was rarely repaid, or, crucially, helping with the family's small holiday rental business on the coast, were simply expected. They weren't favors. They were my unspoken duty. The holiday rental business was Mom's pet project, inherited years ago. It consisted of 3 modest apartments in a charming, slightly run-down building by the North Sea. It had potential, but it was neglected, running on outdated systems and relying on word-of-mouth referrals from a dwindling local clientele. For years, Mom had complained about the hassle, the lack of bookings, the needed renovations she couldn't afford. Naturally, I stepped in. Using my marketing skills, I built a simple website, listed the apartments on major booking platforms, handled the online communication, optimized the listings with professional photos I hired a colleague to take at a discounted rate, and developed a social media strategy that highlighted the unique charm of the location. I spent countless evenings and weekends on this, on top of my demanding full-time job. I treated it like a small client project, pouring my expertise into it, believing I was helping secure Mom's future and contributing to a shared family asset. Marcus, meanwhile, occasionally drove up to check on things, which usually involved drinking beer with the local caretaker and complaining about the Wi-Fi speed. The business improved. Bookings increased significantly. The revenue grew from a trickle to a steady stream. We could finally afford basic renovations, new paint, updated kitchens, modern bathrooms. I researched contractors, negotiated prices, and even drove up on weekends myself to oversee work, spending my precious vacation days coordinating deliveries and sorting through linens instead of relaxing. Mom would occasionally say, "Oh, Rita, you are so good at this," or, "I don't know what I'd do without you." But it always felt like praise for my utility, not for my inherent worth or the genuine effort I poured in. The financial benefit, the growing income, flowed directly to Mom's account. I didn't ask for a share, not initially. It was family, after all. We were helping Mom. The subtle tension lived in the unspoken expectations. When I was swamped at work, Mom would call, sighing about a tricky guest complaint I needed to handle online immediately. When I suggested a more efficient booking system, Marcus would dismiss it as too complicated for him or Mom. When I spent hours analyzing market trends to adjust pricing, it was just Rita doing her computer stuff. My labor, my expertise, my time, it was all invisible, absorbed into the family structure as if it cost nothing. It was the unseen female labor my grandmother and great-grandmother had performed, simply repackaged for the digital age. The favoritism towards Marcus was equally subtle and pervasive. His latest failed business idea required a significant loan from Mom, which she struggled to afford despite the improved rental income I had generated. My minor career success met with a nod and a quick change of subject back to Marcus's potential. His occasional visits to the rentals, praised as him being so helpful, despite achieving little. My constant tangible work, simply the baseline expectation. The inciting incident, the moment the subtle tension snapped and the betrayal became undeniable, arrived disguised as a family meeting. Mom called it, unusually formal, requesting Marcus and I both be there in person. She lived in the family home, a solid, old-fashioned house filled with the scent of furniture polish and faded memories. We sat in the living room, Mom perched on the edge of her armchair, Marcus lounging on the sofa, me feeling a familiar knot tightening in my stomach. Mom cleared her throat. "As you know," she began, her voice brittle, "the rentals have been doing much better." I nodded, a tiny spark of pride flickering, quickly extinguished by her flat tone. "Yes, thanks to Rita," Marcus added, a perfunctory acknowledgement that still surprised me. "Well, yes," Mom said, not meeting my eyes. "The income has been good, but it's still a lot of work, more work than I expected." I frowned. "But I handle almost all of it, Mom. The online stuff, the bookings, the communication. All you do is manage the local caretaker and the finances." "Still," she insisted, waving a hand dismissively. "And the building needs more work. Significant structural repairs are coming up. The roof, the foundation, It will cost a fortune. I knew about some needed repairs, but structural? That was new. I had researched general maintenance, but Mom hadn't mentioned anything this serious. I've been thinking, Mom continued, her gaze fixed on a point just past my shoulder. And Marcus has been thinking too. Marcus nodded sagely from the sofa. It's just too much for me, and the costs, they're too much. My stomach dropped. I had carefully managed the finances from the rentals. There was a healthy reserve building up, earmarked for renovations. It wasn't enough for a complete structural overhaul, but it was a significant amount, far more than we'd ever had before I stepped in. Mom, we have the money we saved, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We can phase the repairs. We don't have to do everything at once. No, that won't work, Marcus interjected, finally sitting up. Mom's right. It's a money pit, and it's dragging her down. Dragging me down, Mom echoed weakly. So, Marcus continued, leaning forward conspiratorially. We had an idea. We, my brother and mother, the two people I had worked tirelessly to support and protect, coming to me with an idea about something I had poured my life into. We've decided, Mom announced, her voice gaining a sudden, firm edge, to sell the building. The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Sell it? The building I had revived, the business I had built from almost nothing, the asset I thought was securing their future, and ours? Sell it? I repeated, the knot in my stomach twisting into a painful vice. But why? It's finally profitable. We're making good money. We have savings for repairs. It's just easier, Rita, Mom said, finally looking at me, her expression a mixture of weariness and impatience. Less stress, and the market is good right now. We got an offer. An offer? I was reeling. They had received an offer, and hadn't mentioned it? Who made an offer? How much? A developer, Marcus said, picking up his phone and scrolling through it nonchalantly. They want to buy the whole block, tear it down, build something new. Good price. How good? My voice was trembling now, not just from shock, but from a dawning, horrible realization. Mom named a figure. It was substantial. More than I had imagined the building was worth, even with the improved income. It represented financial security for Mom, a comfortable cushion for her retirement. And it represented the complete erasure of my work, my plans, my belief that I was building something for the family's future alongside my own. That's a lot of money, I said, my mind racing. What will you do with it? And then came the second blow, the one that landed squarely in my chest, stealing my breath. Mom will keep a portion for her needs, Marcus said, still looking at his phone. And the rest, well, she's going to invest it in my new venture. He finally looked up, a wide, expectant smile on his face. I'm starting a tech company, disrupting the disruption market. It's going to be huge, Rita. Absolutely huge, and Mom is going to be my primary investor. I stared at him, then at Mom, who was beaming at Marcus with unconcealed pride. The money generated, in large part, by my hard work, my late nights, my expertise, was going to fund Marcus's latest, undoubtedly doomed, pipe dream. The asset I had revitalized was being liquidated, not to secure Mom's stability alone, but to fuel her blatant favoritism, bypassing me entirely. My venture? I managed to choke out. You're selling the building, the business I built up, to fund his new company? It's a good investment, Rita, Mom said defensively. Marcus has big plans. This could really pay off. Marcus has had big plans for 20 years, Mom. I retorted, the years of silent resentment bubbling to the surface. And they've all failed. Every single one. He still owes you money from the last big plan. This is different, Marcus snapped, his charm evaporating instantly. This is cutting edge. You wouldn't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said, standing up, my legs suddenly weak. I understand that I poured 2 years of my life, my skills, my time, into making that business successful. I understand that I generated the income that makes this sale price so attractive, and I understand that you are taking the result of my labor and handing it to the person who has consistently failed upwards his entire life, while completely disregarding my contributions, my feelings, and my potential share in the future you supposedly wanted to build. Don't be dramatic, Rita, Mom sighed, shrinking back into her chair. It's family money. It's Mom's decision. My decision, yes, Mom confirmed, suddenly resolute. And I believe in Marcus. This is his chance. And what about my chance? I asked, my voice rising despite myself. What about my contribution? Doesn't that count for anything? Did you even consider giving me a share of the sale? Or letting me invest, since it was my work that made it valuable? But you're doing well, Rita, Mom said, as if this explained everything. You have your good job. Marcus needs this more. Marcus needs this more. The familiar refrain. It was always Marcus who needed more. More money, more support, more chances. While I, the one who consistently delivered, needed nothing, apparently, not even acknowledgement. Needs this more? I echoed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. He needs this because he's never been held accountable, because you've always bailed him out. And I'm doing well because I worked my backside off, without any help from either of you. That's unfair, Marcus protested. Is it? I challenged, looking from him to Mom, the faces that were supposed to represent unconditional love now looking like strangers, defensive and cold. Is it unfair to point out that my efforts built something valuable, and yours are being rewarded with it, while mine are dismissed? We're not dismissing you, Mom said, her voice regaining its weary tone. We're grateful, of course, for all your help. We just think this is the best path forward. For the family. For the family, I repeated, the phrase tasting like ash in my mouth. Their family, not mine, not really. I was the resource, the tool, not a genuine member whose input or feelings mattered. The developer is eager, Marcus said, changing the subject, a clear signal that the discussion was over. The sale should go through quickly. I couldn't breathe. The air in the room felt thick with unspoken history, with years of buried resentment and unacknowledged sacrifices. This wasn't just about the money from the sale. It was about everything. Every time my needs were secondary, every time my achievements were downplayed, every time Marcus's failures were framed as temporary setbacks requiring collective support. I need to go, I stammered, backing away from them as if they were infectious. Don't be silly, Rita, Mom said, standing up. Let's have some coffee. We can talk about it calmly. Talk about what? I asked, my voice raw. How you just told me that my hard work means nothing to you. How you prioritize Marcus's pipe dreams over my tangible contributions. How you've decided to sell something I invested my lifeblood into without even a word of consultation. It's Mom's property, Marcus said, shrugging. She can do what she wants. Yes, she can, I agreed, my voice chillingly calm now. And I can do what I want, too. I turned and walked out of the living room, through the familiar hallway, and out the front door, leaving behind the scent of furniture polish and betrayal. I didn't grab my coat or my purse. I just left. I walked for hours that day through the streets of Dusseldorf, not seeing the charming buildings or the people passing by. My mind was a whirlwind of pain, confusion, and a searing, righteous anger I hadn't allowed myself to feel before. The days that followed were a blur of intense emotional pain and isolation. I didn't go to work. I called in sick, citing a sudden, severe flu. In truth, the sickness was in my soul. I stayed in my apartment, pulling the curtains tight, disconnecting from the world. I cried until my eyes were swollen shut, slept fitfully, and woke up to the same suffocating sense of loss and injustice. My phone buzzed sporadically. Texts from Mom. Are you feeling better? Still angry? Marcus is worried. Texts from Marcus. Seriously, Rita, it's not a big deal. Mom is upset. You should call her. Can't believe you're making a scene. None of them acknowledged the core issue. None of them apologized or showed any understanding of the depth of the hurt they had inflicted. They just wanted me to snap back into my assigned role, the amenable, uncomplaining sister and daughter who smoothed things over and didn't rock the boat. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Every message felt like another small act of violence, proof that they fundamentally misunderstood or worse, deliberately ignored, the reality of what had happened. They saw my reaction as an overblown tantrum about money, not as a breakdown of trust and a lifetime of feeling unseen and undervalued. The isolation was profound. I felt utterly alone with my pain. How could the two people closest to me do this? How could they so easily dismiss my contribution, my feelings, my very existence as a separate, deserving individual? I replayed conversations, events, moments from my childhood, seeing them through this new, harsh lens. The constant praise for Marcus, the casual dismissal of my efforts, the way I was always expected to be the strong one, the responsible one, the one who could handle anything. It wasn't just about the rentals or the sale. It was the culmination of a lifetime of being treated as a functional object rather than a beloved family member with her own needs and desires. I stopped eating properly. Sleep offered no escape. My apartment, usually my sanctuary, felt like a cage. I paced the floors, a frantic energy coursing through me, fueled by unprocessed anger and grief. My carefully constructed world felt like it had been wiped away, leaving me standing in a void. Who was I, if not the reliable daughter, the supportive sister? The narrative I had built my identity around, being the capable, needed one, had been brutally exposed as a lie. I wasn't needed. I was used. I wasn't valued. I was convenient. In the depths of this despair, huddled on my sofa in the dark, something began to shift. It wasn't a sudden epiphany, but a slow, painful dawning. This wasn't sustainable. I couldn't live like this, consumed by bitterness and the ghost of a family that had never truly seen me. The alternative, going back to the way things were, pretending it hadn't happened, forgiving them so we could all sweep it under the rug, felt like a death sentence. It would mean accepting my role as the perpetual, silent giver, the one whose feelings didn't matter, the one whose labor was invisible. I couldn't do it, not anymore. The pain of staying was finally greater than the fear of leaving. I started reading. Not books, not initially, just articles online. Articles about toxic family dynamics, about favoritism, about emotional exploitation, about setting boundaries. The words resonated deeply, validating experiences I had dismissed for years as just how family is. I learned about the scapegoat and the golden child, about covert narcissism, about the cycle of abuse that doesn't leave physical scars but leaves deeper, emotional wounds. It was like finding a map in the dark. Suddenly, the landscape of my life made sense, albeit in a devastating way. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overly sensitive. My feelings were valid. My hurt was justified. They hadn't just made a poor financial decision. They had committed an act of profound personal betrayal, leveraging my efforts for their own gain while simultaneously reinforcing a lifetime of toxic patterns. The realization hardened something inside me. The soft, permeable boundaries I had always maintained dissolved, replaced by a sudden, fierce clarity. I had to protect myself. I had to build a new identity, one that wasn't defined by my utility to others or my place in a dysfunctional system. I had to reclaim my worth. The decision to stand up wasn't a single moment, but a slow hardening of resolve. It began with the quiet refusal to answer their texts, then evolved into a determination to confront them, not for their sake, but for mine. I needed to speak my truth, not with the goal of changing their minds. I knew, with a chilling certainty now, that they were incapable of truly seeing it, but to assert my reality, to draw a line in the sand, and to reclaim my voice which had been silenced for so long by the fear of upsetting them. I called my therapist. I had seen her sporadically for years, usually when stress from work or family felt overwhelming. This time, I called her and simply said, "It happened. The thing we talked about, the betrayal." She listened patiently as I poured out the story, validating my feelings, helping me untangle the threads of guilt, anger, and grief. She didn't offer solutions, but she offered support, a safe space for me to process the seismic shift in my life. With her guidance, I started to prepare for the confrontation. It wasn't about winning an argument. It was about stating my position, clearly and unequivocally, and establishing new terms of engagement, or disengagement. I wrote down what I wanted to say, practiced saying it out loud, bracing myself for their inevitable defensiveness, denial, and attempts to turn it back on me. The confrontation happened a week later. I agreed to meet them at a neutral location, a quiet cafe, not the family home. I chose a table near the door, a subconscious signal that I had an escape route. When they arrived, Mom looked drawn, Marcus looked annoyed. The air was thick with unspoken accusations. "So," Mom started, her voice tight, "are you going to talk to us now?" "Yes," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I am." "Good," Marcus huffed, "because honestly, Rita, your reaction was completely over the top. You're acting like we stole your inheritance." "You stole my contribution," I corrected him, meeting his gaze directly. "You disregarded years of my work, my expertise, my financial contributions, and my emotional investment. You sold something I built up, without consulting me, and used the proceeds to fund your speculative venture." "It was Mom's property," Marcus shot back. "She can do what she wants." "And I helped make that property valuable," I said, raising my voice slightly. "I spent hundreds of hours, my own money, my professional skills to turn it into a profitable business. You took the fruits of my labor and benefited from them while treating me as if I had done nothing." "We said thank you," Mom interjected, her voice trembling slightly. "We appreciate what you did, Rita, but the building needed too much work, and Marcus has this opportunity." "Stop," I said, holding up a hand. "Stop minimizing this. Stop making excuses. This isn't just about the money. This is about trust. This is about respect. For my entire life, I've been the one who is capable, the one who takes care of things, the one who doesn't complain. And for my entire life, my efforts have been taken for granted, while Marcus's needs and wants have always been prioritized, no matter how irresponsible he is." "That's not fair," Marcus said, his face flushing. "It is fair," I stated calmly. "It's the truth. You've always been Mom's favorite, and she's always enabled you. And I've always been expected to pick up the pieces and ask for nothing in return. This sale, and how you handled it, is the ultimate expression of that dynamic. You saw my hard work as a resource to be exploited, not as a contribution from a family member who deserved to be treated with respect and included in the decisions." "Exploited?" Mom gasped, looking genuinely hurt. "How can you say that? We're your family." "Family shouldn't exploit each other," I said, my voice firm. "Family should value each other. And you haven't valued me. Not my time, not my skills, not my feelings. You've taken and taken and taken, and when I finally stopped giving silently, you acted like I was the one doing something wrong." "We are grateful for your help with the rentals," Mom said stiffly. "But the decision was made. We've already signed the papers for the sale." "I know," I said, a profound sadness washing over me. The finality of it. They had truly gone ahead without me. And because of that, I have to make a decision too. I paused, taking a deep breath. This was the hardest part. The part that severed the cord, perhaps permanently. "I can't continue like this," I said, looking from Mom to Marcus. "I can't keep pretending that this is a healthy family dynamic. I can't keep being the one who gives everything and receives nothing but disrespect and disregard. So, I need space, a lot of space." "What do you mean, space?" Mom asked, her eyes narrowing. "I mean, I won't be coming over for a while," I explained, choosing my words carefully. "I won't be available for last-minute favors. I won't be answering every call or text immediately. I need to figure out who I am outside of this dynamic, outside of being the responsible Rita who fixes everything and expects nothing. And honestly, I need time to heal from this betrayal. Betrayal, Marcus scoffed. It's just money, Rita. Get over it. It's not just money, I almost shouted, losing my carefully constructed calm for a moment. It's everything. It's you showing me exactly where I stand, below your needs, below your wants, below your comfort. It's you telling me, louder than any words, that my worth is conditional on my usefulness. Mom started to cry, small, dramatic sobs. How can you say such cruel things, Rita, after everything we've done for you? Everything you've done for me? I asked, genuinely bewildered. What exactly have you done for me, Mom? Besides, give birth to me and provide a roof over my head until I could afford my own? I worked through university. I built my career myself. I managed my own finances. I dealt with my own problems. I never asked for financial help. I never relied on you for anything substantial. I was the one always helping you. This seemed to genuinely shock her. She had clearly rewritten the history in her mind, casting herself as the sacrificing mother and me as the successful daughter who owed her everything. This is ridiculous, Marcus said, standing up abruptly. If you're going to be like this, I'm leaving. Go ahead, I said, a strange sense of calm settling over me. His leaving didn't hold the power it once did. His approval, his presence, they weren't essential to my survival anymore. He walked away without another word. Mom continued to dab at her eyes. Rita, please, she pleaded, her voice weak. Don't do this. We're family. Family means treating each other with respect, I said, standing up as well. Family means recognizing each other's contributions. Family means not exploiting each other. When you are ready to acknowledge what you did, and how deeply it hurt me, maybe we can talk. But not until then. I need to protect myself now. I need to choose my own well-being. I left the cafe, walking out into the bright Dusseldorf sunshine. My hands were shaking, and tears were streaming down my face. But beneath the pain there was a nascent feeling, fragile but undeniable. Liberation. I had said my truth. I had drawn the line. I had chosen myself. The immediate aftermath of the confrontation was fraught. Mom sent more texts, oscillating between tearful pleas for me to come home and angry accusations of being ungrateful and cold. Marcus sent terse messages saying Mom was ill with worry, and it was my fault. I maintained my distance, responding only occasionally with brief, neutral texts about practical matters, refusing to be drawn into the emotional drama or the guilt-tripping. It was incredibly difficult. The silence was deafening sometimes. The ingrained habit of checking in, of trying to smooth things over, of anticipating their needs, was hard to break. There were moments of intense doubt, fueled by their messages and the internalized narrative of being the bad daughter for not falling back into line. Was I overreacting? Was I being too harsh? The voices of self-doubt, honed over decades, whispered constantly. But then I would remember the look on their faces in the cafe, the casual dismissal of my pain, the blatant favoritism, the sheer audacity of taking my work and giving it to Marcus. And the clarity would return, sharp and undeniable. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a pattern, a system of exploitation I had been trapped in, and I had finally found the door. I leaned heavily on my therapist during this time. She helped me process the grief for the family I thought I had, grief for the past I was having to reframe, grief for the energy and time I had wasted trying to earn love and validation that were never freely given. She helped me strengthen my boundaries, teaching me that saying no wasn't selfish, but necessary for survival. I also turned to my work. It became a refuge, a place where my skills were valued, my contributions were seen, and the results of my labor were clear and undeniable. My colleagues, bless them, noticed I was struggling and offered quiet support without prying. I poured myself into a complex new project, finding satisfaction in the measurable outcomes, a stark contrast to the immeasurable and ultimately disregarded emotional labor I had performed for my family. Slowly, painstakingly, I started rebuilding. I focused on myself, on my needs, on rediscovering who I was outside of the family dynamic. I started exercising regularly, something I had neglected for years. I reconnected with friends I had let drift away because my family duties always seemed to take precedence. I pursued hobbies I had always wanted to try but never had the time for. I read books that nourished my soul, listened to music that lifted my spirits. I was reclaiming my time, my energy, my identity. Every small act of prioritizing myself felt like a radical rebellion against the lifetime of self-neglect the family system had encouraged. One evening, a few months after the confrontation, I was having dinner with a friend, a journalist I had met through work. I was hesitant to share the full story, feeling a lingering sense of shame and failure. But as we talked, the words just started to pour out. The rentals, the work I did, the sale, the betrayal, the confrontation. She listened with rapt attention, her journalistic instincts kicking in. "Rita," she said when I finished, her eyes wide. That's, that's an incredible story. The unseen labor, the family dynamics, the exploitation. It's so relatable for so many women." I shrugged, feeling awkward. "It's just my messy family life." "No," she insisted. "It's a powerful narrative about value, about boundaries, about finding your voice. Have you ever thought about writing it down or talking about it publicly?" I recoiled. "Publicly? Never. It's too personal, too embarrassing." "I understand that," she said gently. "But think about it. There are so many people trapped in similar situations, feeling guilty, feeling crazy, feeling alone. Your story could help them. It could show them it's possible to break free. And honestly, your insights into exploitation and valuing skills, especially for women. It's something people need to hear." Her words lingered. The idea was terrifying, but also strangely compelling. Could my pain, my experience, actually have value beyond my own healing? Could sharing it be a way to make sense of it all, to give it meaning, and to connect with others who understood? The holiday rental business was sold, just as they planned. Marcus, predictably, launched his tech venture with Mom's money. It sputtered almost immediately. The disruption market remained stubbornly undisrupted. He called me a couple of times, angling for introductions to potential investors in my network, completely bypassing the fact that we hadn't spoken properly in months and were supposedly estranged. I politely but firmly declined. Meanwhile, I found myself talking about my experiences more openly, not just with my therapist and close friends, but in professional contexts too. I gave a talk at a women's leadership conference about valuing your own labor and setting boundaries, drawing subtly on my personal story without revealing the specifics. The response was overwhelming. Women lined up afterward, sharing their own stories of being overlooked, undervalued, and exploited, often within their own families or workplaces. My journalist friend circled back. She believed my story had the potential for a wider reach. She connected me with a contact at a media company looking for authentic, empowering personal narratives. The idea of a documentary series or a podcast focusing on hidden labor, family dynamics, and reclaiming self-worth began to take shape. It was a long shot, a completely different path from my events marketing career, but it felt right. It felt like a way to take the pain and turn it into purpose. Negotiations began. They were interested not just in the narrative, but in my perspective, my insights, the practical skills I had honed in marketing and event management that were now being applied to managing my own story and building a platform. The same skills my family had taken for granted were suddenly recognized as valuable assets in a new context. This was the media deal, not a magic bullet, but the culmination of my healing, my newfound clarity, and my willingness to speak my truth. It was a professional opportunity born directly from the ashes of my deepest personal betrayal. The final stage of my transformation was marked by a quiet internal shift. I no longer felt defined by what had happened, but by how I had responded to it. The pain was still there, a dull ache sometimes, but it no longer consumed me. It had become a scar, a reminder of where I had been and how far I had come. I hadn't completely cut off contact with my mother, but it was minimal and strictly on my terms. Short, polite phone calls, initiated by me when I felt ready, focused on superficial topics. The deep, intimate connection was gone, replaced by a fragile, distant politeness. It was sad, but it was also necessary. She never apologized. She never truly acknowledged the pain she caused. Perhaps she couldn't. Perhaps she truly believed she had done nothing wrong. It didn't matter anymore. I no longer needed her validation to know my worth. Marcus drifted further away, swallowed by his own cycle of failed ventures and excuses. He was still Mom's focus, her gilded cage. But I was no longer part of their narrative, no longer tethered to their dysfunction. My life felt lighter, freer. The energy I had spent managing their emotions, anticipating their needs, and smoothing over their problems was now mine to invest in myself, my career, and relationships that were based on mutual respect and genuine connection. My events marketing job still demanded my time, but it felt different now. I was clearer about my boundaries, less afraid to say no, and more assertive in demanding recognition for my work. The media project was moving forward. It was challenging, requiring me to revisit painful memories, but also incredibly empowering. I was using my voice, sharing my story, connecting with a community of people who understood. It was a testament to the fact that even the deepest betrayals can be survivals, and that the strength we find in ourselves is often the most valuable asset of all. I learned that being capable wasn't a burden, but a gift, as long as I directed that capability towards building my own life, valuing my own time, and protecting my own peace. I learned that silence doesn't breed peace, it breeds resentment and invisibility. And I learned that the people who truly belong in your life are the ones who see you, value you, and would never dream of treating your heart or your labor as something to be exploited. I was still Rita from Dusseldorf, the woman who was good at organizing and anticipating. But I was also someone new. Someone who had walked through fire and emerged, not unscathed, but stronger, clearer, and fiercely protective of the life she was now building, brick by conscious brick, for herself. The ground beneath me had crumbled, but I had learned to fly. So, that's my story. Or, at least, a significant part of it. The part where I learned that the hardest boundaries to set are often with the people you love the most, and that sometimes, walking away from what feels like family is the only way to find yourself. It was painful, devastatingly so. There were days I thought I wouldn't make it through. Days when the loneliness was a physical ache and the self-doubt was a deafening roar. But I did make it. And I came out the other side different. Stronger, yes, but also more real, more honest. I stopped performing the role everyone expected of me and started living the life I actually wanted on my own terms. If you're going through something similar, if you feel unseen, undervalued, or exploited by people who are supposed to love you, I want you to know you are not alone. Your feelings are valid. Your contributions matter. You are not responsible for other people's inability to see your worth. And you have the right, the absolute right, to protect your peace, your energy, and your self-respect, even if that means setting boundaries that feel incredibly difficult. It's a journey, not a destination. There are ups and downs, but reclaiming yourself is the most important work you will ever do, and it is absolutely worth it. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, please let me know in the comments below. Have you experienced something similar? How did you navigate it? Your experiences could help others. If you'd like to follow more of my journey and hear more stories like this, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. It really helps me to know these stories are reaching the people who need to hear them. Remember, Your worth is not tied to your usefulness to others. You are enough, just as you are, and you deserve to be seen, valued, and loved for the incredible person you are. Take care of yourselves.